Right. How would you say it? I'm kind of like used to delays.
You're on Fred time.
I worked with Fred for a long time. I'm used to delays.
Yeah. I told David, I said, man, I told David, I said, look, man, I'll be there at 12.
And I was like, whatever.
12:15.
Well,
12:20.
I knew I'd be getting up late, so it was
rock and roll time, though, isn't it?
It is rock and roll time.
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, it's an it's an estimate.
Set your alarm for then, and I'll be around a little bit.
Yeah, I was getting ready, and by noon, and I was like, I'll hear from him. So yeah, it's all good.
You drinking? You got what, the Burger King?
Diet Coke.
Diet. I should have got you a Diet Coke.
I'm good.
All right.
I don't need to drink that shit anyways, but I want some carbonation. Giving up the booze has been tough, man. I mean, I'm 3 years in, dude.
I'm off the booze.
Yeah, from yesterday, maybe.
I'm off the booze.
And we just start talking. We don't even, there's no intro.
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah,
I get
this
it.
is like, and then we kind of just fade in. It's like you're trying to capture like in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah, that's always the best, because starting sucks. It's like starting a book.
Yeah,
because
you wouldn't know how to start, because being it's David's first podcast, we got to lob him some softball questions.
Yeah, start off soft.
Well, we can start off when we ask you, like, what do you think the current war circumstance is in the Middle East and how that's going to affect geopolitical politics?
I have no idea.
All right, David, you're up first. And go, you're on.
Yeah,
give me 500 words on that.
You realize that was a joke, right?
Stumped.
We don't take ourselves too seriously.
That was perfect. Good delivery too. I like that.
You like that?
Yeah, that was great. I was like, he was planned.
I come in here one time,
maybe just a little bit. Maybe.
I come in here one time with all these guys, and they're all political and shit like that, and I'm ready fucking for like politics and shit, and they go, "What do you think the state of comedy is now?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Wait a second, hold up, you can't do that."
I'd be like, "I miss Robin Williams." I don't know about the current state.
Have you ever watched any Joe Rogan stuff at all?
Some. I get a lot of that, like on like the quick TikToks.
The reels.
The reels, and how he like
they carve up little nuggets to try to entice people.
The little conspiracy theories that he is into or isn't, and then I've seen some, but I haven't sat through a whole.
Yeah. What I love about that is the fact that he is so, at least he appears to be, just very curious all the time.
Yeah, like always wants to learn, and I respect that.
Yeah, whether you're not, I think in society though, we always have to try to dive in to find out what that person actually believes. Like when did we start doing that? Really. I mean, like, it wasn't that way 30 years ago as much. Right now, it's like we want to make an instant decision on what team they're on.
Who they are, they don't want to tell you. Think. Yeah,
and it's like. And that's the thing about this. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a free, open discussion, but I didn't want my beliefs to define this show.
Like identity politics.
Yeah. Because with Rogan, I think he's now on the point where people think they know which way he leans on all these different issues, and that might define his audience. And I think that's a losing proposition.
Yeah, it's limiting. I feel like it's limiting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely
you're
limiting.
You're not open
100%. Yeah. So I just don't want to be defined. I don't want this endeavor, whatever this is, to be defined by what someone's perceived perception of what they think I believe.
That's a good attitude. That's a great way to look at it, and I feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, more rock and roll and less Democrat Republican, right?
Yeah, man.
David's about to get judged really hard today.
I know. I feel like the next thing is like, so talk to us about your politics.
No, but invariably though, someone will look at this. Somebody with the intent of because their whole worlds are navigated by how they view the world and how they view other people's beliefs, and they're gonna look and say, okay, which way does he lean?
Yeah, that's true.
That's all they'll think about.
That's true.
Which is go eat a ham sandwich. You're better off doing something like that with your life than they're trying to determine someone's belief. They try with him, and I think you fuck with people because you come out intentionally one way to tease people, and then the next time you're on a podcast, you're like complete opposite. I'm like, Fred, what are you doing? You know, like
Keep
first
them
off,
on their
first off, like
toes.
why'd you jump into the weeds anyway?
I was looking for my golf balls.
Yeah. Do you think well, like rock and roll is still immune from all this political crap over the last decade or so, or do you think now it's starting to get
it's getting political? I mean, it's hard for people not to, I think, because I mean, I don't look for it, because music is music is music is music, and if you like music and you like a song and you like a genre, what's the problem? And again, there's that whole like, if you're a rocker, you can only like rock music, and I don't believe in that. I feel like there's great music everywhere. I feel like there's crappy music everywhere, and it's like, if you're a lover of music, then it should just be that. Again, for instance, if I said, "Oh, I love dogs," and I don't like people,
dogs.
I like dogs.
You got it.
Yeah, I like dogs, and I hate people that litter. I know who you voted for. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't be that way. It should be like, well, you know, it should be like, well, damn, he seems like a good dude. He doesn't like rude people, and he likes dogs. It should just be like, oh, he's a kind of a good guy, and he's a this, you know. Yeah. It does get political, and that's unfortunate. And
I don't know why we're so we have this yearning to define people, everybody.
We do, and it's not fair, because again, you limit yourself, because I remember growing up where it would be like, I like Johnny Carson's comedy, or I'm aging myself, or I like Bill Cosby's comedy. Ooh, I don't know if I should have brought that up.
I like Bill Cosby's comedy too. It was good.
I like Bill Cosby's drinks.
Or like Richard Pryor's comedy, but I don't like their politics. Or you know what I mean? And
why preface that? Why do people feel they need to preface that?
It's like saying, I'm not trying to be rude, or I'm not trying to be an asshole, or like, you know what I mean? It's like, but you're going to say something that's going to define you as an asshole. Yeah.
And that goes to, like, we have to preface because we're afraid at some point someone's going to be quote unquote offended. We believe that,
and then we fall into that cycle again.
Yep.
Yeah, it never goes. It never ends. Yeah, and I just, and it's funny because. So growing up, we all like rock and roll, and my story was I grew up a metalhead, right? But then I was exposed to like Al Di Meola, and like I would listen to this guy play guitar.
Great stuff.
And he was playing Gibson Les Paul, which to my young ears were like, back then, and my young ears were like, wow, like he's playing the guitar that Ace Frehley's playing, and like,
right.
So there was a commonality. Then all of a sudden, wow, this is like way beyond what Ace Frehley's playing. But there was. It exposed me to different things, and then that led to Return to Forever, and then Stanley Clarke, and then Mahopli Snow Orchestra, and all that whole thing blossomed as a young kid because of that guy, but coming from rock, right? I don't think we let ourselves sometimes have the opportunity to blossom into new things because we're so narrow-minded. It's not in this lane, then it's no fucking good.
I agree. Because, again, aging myself, I grew up in a time where, before the internet, and the way you discovered music was not the way you discover music today. And today you have the entire world of music, and you can choose to ignore, and you can just choose where to go. And when you're a young musician or guitarist or bass player, and you like when I was playing jazz bass in high school, I first discovered Jocko. Yeah, and it was just by accident because we were playing Birdland in the jazz band, and that bass line was just monster. And then I buy a cassette tape of the Weather Report, and then I hear Teen Town, that monster fucking solo, and I'm just like,
yeah.
The way you discover music. And
does that happen today, you think? Everybody's in their own little echo chamber?
I feel like it sometimes. But again, like, you want to encourage like the young. When I used to do private lessons before I got where I'm at now.
Right on.
And would try to expose the kids to just different things and have them dig. But it is hard because I can name, and I'm going to forget now, I can name a handful of albums where, and I'm sure you guys can too, where you go, oh yeah, that was the hit, that was the radio hit, that was their Grammy winning hit, and then there's like 5, 6, 7, 8 songs in those deep cuts that the radio stations never played, but that was like your favorite jam. It was better, right? And like a lot of times when you look at some, like when you're, at least when I have been looking for certain albums or certain songs, either the album's not there, and I'm thinking those two deep cuts, track
Oh,
8 or 9 were like
million
the
percent.
bomb.
Yeah.
And it's like now now it's gone because it's not on Apple Music and it's hard to find on YouTube, and you know what I mean? Like a lot of it isn't available to discover. Back when you bought an album, whether it's vinyl or tape, you'd play it, at least I did, you'd play it all the way through. And then you'd go, song number 6, oh my God. That was amazing, and that's how you would at least that's how I would discover the music,
You think the artists were writing albums with the idea back then that it's meant to be enjoyed in its entirety?
I do feel that way.
That's why it was an album.
There really wasn't.
That's why it was an album.
Not really a lot of throwaways. Some bands would have.
Some had throwaways, but some of them, it was like Boston. I was just looking at that.
Question,
you know what I'm saying? You
Yes.
you just throw that on. That's a party right there. That's a party starter. I mean, I can name a lot of Van
most
Halen one.
definitely. No doubt.
No
doubt. Yeah, it just goes. And I often talk with Freddie about the fact that music seems disposable the last 20 years. Once it became a non-tangible thing, but became part of the airwaves.
Yeah, just
so children growing up, young people growing up in that era might not actually value it because it's not a tangible thing they can see and feel and touch.
yeah.
They don't feel they need to purchase it often. And so, has that affected the output from these artists because they feel like their chances of getting compensated are only from touring revenue now, and not every band can tour for money.
I feel that way. I feel that, and there's something lost in that. Because it's cool to discover those songs, even if it's a song you've heard 18 times, and then on the 20th time you're in the car and you're like, man, that song has grown on me. Mm-hmm. And then you tell your friend, and then he's like, oh my God, that drum line, that's those accents at the break and blah blah. And then you're like, all right, I'm not crazy. That's a good tune. Whereas now, that track, that deep track, I don't want that one. I'm going to download these 3, the ones that everybody's jamming to at the clubs or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or on the radio or whatever the case is. I don't even know. I'm out of touch. Well, the clubs.
Did you ever feel as musicians you might be at a handicap when it comes to discovering new music and enjoying music?
I do sometimes.
I don't even listen to music. I don't.
Well, new music you tend not to.
I tend to, yeah.
I try to.
Intentionally.
I try to, if I'm anywhere, store, shopping, usually it's out. When I'm on tour, eating,
Yeah.
at a bar, I hear something that I'm like, I know I haven't heard it before. And it could be anything from country to jazz to world music to, again, on the last tour with Fred and the crew, to pop, to like club bangers, to like hip hop, to dance, to anything. And I'll get my Shazam.
Yeah,
I don't know if I should. And I would go, and I'll go, oh, okay, that's Post Malone. Okay, damn,
Right.
I like that song.
Right.
That's Taylor Swift. I'm not gonna lie, I
Right,
like
of
that
course
song.
not,
You
of
know what I mean?
course.
If it's cool and catchy, who is that?
Yeah. And that goes back to what you said earlier, that it's either good or it's not. The genre be damned. It's just, if something resonates, it's good.
It sounds kind of cool.
Because there's a lot of classical music my father tried to expose me to, and it wasn't that the whole genre was abrasive to me, but a lot of the pieces he played just did nothing for me. But
Copy.
occasionally, you're like, wow, this is like majestic. It's like
Mind blowing.
boom, but not everything.
Right.
And you couldn't really at a young age determine why you felt that way. Like either
You can't
resonates or it
articulate.
doesn't.
Yeah, you
No,
can't
at
articulate
age,
that.
no.
No, you can't.
Tell David when you got in my car what I was
Oh,
listening to.
yeah. Yeah, so he was traveling a lot during our Boogie Street years, and once in a while he would have a week off. And I'm like, hey, Fred, we should go get lunch since we never do that. Okay. So I made him drive one day. That was a mistake. But
David found that out today.
I get in his car after I shoved all this shit in the back seat and cleared a space in the front seat.
I cleared it before David got in. I stopped at the
Oh,
gas
he was
station.
nice to me.
He
was nice to me. I feel special.
You got the VIP treatment. But all it was in this back seat, amongst other things, but the only CDs I could find in this thing was just like case after case after case of surf music. And as soon as we get in there, I don't there's not many things I dislike generally, but that's the tough one for me, man. It was
Really?
just, He's driving around blasting his thing.
It's a little, but see, I don't know. I feel like so much music for me as a musician, because I know where it, I feel like I know where it comes from. I shouldn't say I know, but I feel like it meshes, because you got a little bit of country, you got a little bit of rockabilly,
exactly.
you got some rock, you got a little.
That's how I learned how to play.
Yeah,
I learned how to play bass by listening to, and I tell people, somebody will say, "Hey, can you help me learn how? What's the best thing to learn? Learn the old classics. Learn." And surf music to me was it was, because I'm not flashy, you know what I mean? I'm straight ahead, and I learned how to play the bass lines of surf music. And then, then I started learning how to play the guitar. It's got that twangy.
Yeah.
It's got that little.
And you can distinguish, and in music like that, you can distinguish the guitar.
Yes.
Very distinct, and if you're learning that, there it's on the G string, and it's this note and this note, and then the melody goes like that.
David's a properly schooled musician.
I can tell.
he actually is.
And on this side of the table, we are not.
Exactly.
No, that's okay.
I fake it on this side of the table. I've been faking it for 30 years. Wow, longer than that. 30 something.
Well, when I was talking about feeling robbed, like, do you feel robbed because the genres or the lack of, like, not full album of material, or do you feel? I was really kind of referring to the fact that I think musicians at times can be handicapped trying to ingest music because we have an overly critical ear at times.
Yes, we can. We do. We do. We do. But then also at the same time, you're also, I don't know, I feel like you're also, like when we were playing, okay, I'm in the rock, I'm now in the rock world, like officially. I'm in the rock
sure.
world. So I'm around a lot of rock music, but it's funny, the music we listen to when we're not around work or around festivals, it's not what we listen to at work.
Well, look who your boss is, so I get it. I totally get that.
I mean, he's all John. He has a variety of influences,
which is what I totally dig about John, and that's where him and I see very similar. And I'll never, like, not just because he's my boss, but because, like, I can appreciate all that. I grew up in Texas. I was in country bands. I was in funk bands. I was in bar bands, rock bands, jazz bands, and so it's like, I actually can appreciate different music. And again, growing up learning really basic stuff because you're trying to learn by ear, and like, I want to do what that guy does. And then, so I respect anything that any musician puts out there that really puts thought into it. And that's the thing, I'm lucky, because John, I think I even told him this once. I said, man, I really like what you do. And I said, I know I'm going to sound like I'm too good for myself or too good for anybody. I said, but like, I don't know if I could ever work for someone that I felt was not really doing it or trying, or, like, for lack of a better term, someone I could probably play better than.
Sure.
I don't feel that way with John.
Sure, understood.
So I totally respect everything he does. And literally, I tell this to people, and it's no lie. Every night, I get to watch one of the greatest guitar players on the planet do his thing. And I swear, at every day at rehearsal, every night I ever see him or watch him on stage, I learn a little bit more. Like, it's like he puts on I feel like he's putting on a personal clinic for me. And I learn something all the time.
That's very cool.
All the time from him.
That's how I approached with Zach. I felt the same way when I was with Zach. I watched somebody that, I mean, he's so diverse, other than just playing the Black Label
the shreddy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's same as John. You know what I mean?
He started off as jazz, like in jazz, like trained in jazz, country.
Amazing players that you say, hey, show me the solo for Mr. Crowley. Dude, check it out. The whole fucking thing is you start and like, but it's like you get a personal lesson, and it's nothing to them, And even with John back in the day, it was always great because he was even with Manson or Zombie or whatever. So I got to watch him from the side of the stage every day too.
That's right.
And just watching it, and then knowing that he can do the chicken picking, that he can play the classical, that he can play the country, that he can play the swing, that he can play the hip hop. The stuff that he's doing now is amazing. And when you get the album, you like his solo stuff, you look forward to that next track because you don't know what the hell it's going to be when it comes out. You know,
it could be super shreddy or super chill, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's,
okay, or Georgia on My Mind.
Yeah,
you know, and it's amazing. Or what is it? The Harlem Globetrotters. What is that? Sweet ragtime. So I forget the name of it.
Oh, the theme song.
Yeah, but he's played that. Yeah, and you watch him and it's effortless. And it was effortless with Zach. And so here's somebody that's like struggling to play surf music, and you're like watching this, going, man, I'd love to play like that, you know, but I don't, you know, I tried, you know. But watching those guys play, and it's just so easy to them, and like you said, you learn something new every day.
Every time you watch them,
every time you watch them, and like even I've been out with you guys for what 6-7 shows now,
quite a few, man.
And I'm down in the pit watching, and I sit there and I smile because that's my friend up there, and just watching him go, he doesn't make a mistake. He's not once, and he's throwing his picks around and he's performing and he's doing all this stuff, and it's all those things that when I started out, I'm like, man, I'd love to do that, but I didn't. I went the easy way and just, you know, man, if it makes a noise, yeah, I play bass now, you know.
Punk.
Sorry.
3 chords and the truth, baby.
3 chords and the truth.
Or if you're Sid Vicious, 1.5 chords and like the real truth.
Exactly. The brutal truth.
The brutal
no,
truth.
but you're right though. Like those guys, they don't just play; they perform.
Yeah.
They put on, like last night. He was on fire.
Oh, I told him that. I told him when he got off.
He puts on a show, brother.
He was so in the zone last night. And here's the thing, David goes out and plays with him.
That's cool.
I try to.
David goes out, and David goes out, and he kills it every night. And I'll be sitting in the. He did make a clam though the other day. I know he didn't. He wasn't looking at me on purpose. So I'm sitting there going, clam, and I was like giggling at myself. But man, he's out there playing with John 5, you know, and it's amazing. And
how come we never played with Zach?
I've sat around with him.
I know.
I've sat around with him off the stage and done it. But just watching these guys and watching David go up there and play, like cold. He goes last night. He goes, David, you know, Really Got Me. And David comes from behind the thing, goes out and plays
cool
Really Got Me, and it was awesome. And he killed it.
That's cool.
That was the first time we pulled that out.
I know,
but I was really nervous.
But it was awesome, you know. And he just goes up and he throws down and he plays it perfect with them, you know. But you know, that's the thing, you know. I can only imagine that, you know, if he says to you one day, "Hey, Dave, can you play, you know, throw the bass line down on you know, some crazy obscure song," and it's just like, you know, it's like I really got to study on these things. But man, you guys like killed it. You know, it was.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
And it's even better to see 2 friends up there playing. You know, 3 with Al now.
I bet.
But, you know, to watch these guys go up and just every night they kill it and they're perfect, and they have fun. And he was on fire last night, man.
He was doing it, man.
And he was smiling. He was, you know, it was a great show. It was like he said, it was probably the best show of the tour. Show. Come on, Pittsburgh, we got to show up. Got to show up those Ohio venues.
Hey, and you know what? Honestly, the shows are just getting better and better. And like he's just like, it's like every day he's sharpening that stage show on his end, and like just even every show there's times I'm like, wow, that was cool. Like he hasn't done that before. And like him when he was going, he did his like solo. And he was leaning against the wall.
I
took
a picture of that.
I was like,
looked like he was sleeping.
I was like,
what is playing his sleep?
What is going on? Like, and even I look over at Alex on the drum riser, and even he's like, oh, well, I'm sorry, he wasn't playing, but he was like wiping, and he looked over at John like, what's he doing? You know what I mean? Like
well, he would do that with Motley. He'd come over and he'd like look at me and he'd lay down on the thing, but he's like flat on his back, just like shred the way playing.
Yeah,
that's what he did last night. He was like leaning against the wall, all casual, but he's shredding. And it's just like
off.
I can't even sit in a chair and do that. And he's sitting there. He's like, this is, you know, but he's awesome, man.
Yeah,
and just
love it.
Being around and being exposed, like you said, you learn something about, you know, every day. But you're talking about John, talking about Zach, talking about guys like that are the total package that have the performance, that have the capabilities to play
And
anything.
they got some of the best attitudes
Yes,
and
the
personalities,
sweetest
man.
people in the world.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's nice.
That's something else I've learned from him. You don't have to be a dick
Yo, dude.
to be that caliber.
He's exactly.
You don't have to be.
And I've run into some dicks
I'm sure you have.
in my time.
I'm sure you have.
But should we? No, we're not.
But no, man. Again, here's somebody that appreciates music, and like he says, I do it for the love of music. He's not out to make money. Money's fine, but he's out there to have fun and play.
He loves the music.
Yeah,
and he loves playing, man.
And that's exactly it. You see a guy that he comes off the road with Motley and he goes back on tour with for a solo thing. Zach does the same thing.
Yep.
Comes off the road with Ozzy, goes on tour with Black Label. Comes off the road with Black Label. Oh, Ozzy's not available. Let's do Zach Sabbath.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go back out with Black Label, and maybe Ozzy will do a couple dates down the line. But those cats just love. And they love to play. They love to be on the road and touring. And those are the kinds of guys I like to hang out with because I like touring.
Yeah. It's almost like you don't like being home. Like Zach. Zach's always on the road.
Yeah. Here's the thing, man. And this isn't being weird or obnoxious. I don't know what to do when I come home. I'm good for a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm a
little bit like that too.
And then I'm like, what the hell am I going to do now? And I start doing. It's like you haven't left your room. Because that's what I do in a hotel. I
used to go up Boogie Street and fix guitars.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I used to do. I used to come up and
where are you going now, you son of a bitch? You up there to see Eric? You fixing all those guitars? I don't know what guitars you got up there.
I had a warehouse full.
Oh my God.
Right. You're going to see you as a girlfriend, I'm sure.
No, I'm up there fixing guitars.
What's her name?
I'll cut that bitch.
The UPS driver, right?
Yeah, and that was always fun too, man. It's just, you get in there and I'd see all these other guitars. I'm like, you go home, you're like, oh my God. We just got this beautiful dime bag, and you should see the flame on it. The stripes go both ways.
Oh, right. You expect it's like, you think I want to hear about this?
It's just like, oh man. But
never mind.
But yeah, man. So when I come home, it's just but there's times too when I come home, and you might do it too. I don't even want to touch a guitar. I don't pick it up, but I don't play.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, man, but I don't know what to do when I come home.
I've fallen into that, and I was told that was
welcome to the road.
Yeah, I was told I was going to fall into that, and I have fallen into that where I get there, and I'm just like, I don't, because I feel like something's going to happen. I feel like John's going to call, and like again, so here, no wife, nothing. It's just me. Usually people have a picture of their dog or their wife. It's just John. And I even told him that once, and he's seen this picture. Oh, and this was on the last tour with Motley. And I think I said something like this because he had seen it, and he was asking, well, you want to do this or do that? Or he was asking something about like his project, the solo stuff. And I said, look, John, I said, I've got no life. Like this is, you are everything. You are everything I have right now. So like, for lack of a better scene, it's like in the Officer and a Gentleman when he's trying to break Richard Gere, with PT and him, and he's like, I've got no place to go. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of me. And so, again, I get off the road and going back to that, I get off the road and I'm just always anticipating, hey, dude.
Yeah.
Come over and train some strings, or hey, let's get ready for the next Motley thing. I want to try something different, or whatever, changing heads or going through, I don't know, whatever.
Going through gear.
Yeah, going through gear, having a tech day at his house.
Yeah. See, that's awesome.
And it is cool because I live really, I don't want to say close, but about 30 minutes from.
Oh, that's close.
It's close for LA.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
LA.
That's literally across the street.
Yeah.
I can see his house.
Yeah. So I live pretty close to him, and it's really common. Hey, dude, come on over, or I'm gonna go over some stuff, or and I'm not saying we just hang out, but like it's kind of a hang. He come, and sometimes I'm there. Oh, sorry. Sometimes I'm there just doing something to a guitar, raising or lowering action or pickups, and then, hey, check this out. He'll show me stuff. Or, hey, look, Nikki just took this picture, or he sent me this, or he'll show me things that
it's fun.
Yeah, it's a hang. Or again, we'll geek out on Van Halen stuff, or I'll see the newest addition to the Kiss layer that he's has in there, and I'm like, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, I just got off of blah 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 blah, you know. Or they're rearranging him, and he's got this one buddy who every time they over the past year or so, he's done interviews out of the Kiss layer. Like he did one for a guitar magazine, and it was on Kiss, and it was all about Kiss and their last tour, this past tour. And I guess he was like a side interview, John was, and it was like, because he's like the premier guitar player who collects all this Kiss stuff.
For sure.
And so they did like this whole interview with him, and so they had arranged his stuff in the Kiss layer to present it for this picture thing that they did for the magazine. And so recently, before the tour, they're arranging again, and they're like looking and they're rearranging and looking and arranging, and I'm like, oh, you guys getting ready for another photo shoot? Like, I was just being curious, because you know he does a lot of interviews and photo shoots there out of his home. And then they turned to me, and then his buddy Craig goes, no, we're really big Kiss fans. We like to just arrange and rearrange, like those vinyl guys who like will you know, by year, by alphabetically, or by band, by genre. Sure. And I'm like, oh, that's you guys just geeking out. Yeah, we're just geeking out. And I'm like, all right, I thought it was for a photo shoot, you know, but I'm out of that world. But then again, that's all John does off a tour. Plays guitar, collects Kiss shit. Yeah. That's all he does. So, I mean, back to the touring thing. If he wasn't doing it on the road, he'd be doing it at home. Right. That's all he does. That's all he does.
Sidebar, didn't he play on Stanley's 2006 solo album, Live to Win?
Yeah, he played.
I'm pretty sure he played on that.
I think he did that.
He did. I know he's worked with Paul.
I wish I knew more of who he's worked with, but he's worked with so many people, John has, which is what makes him so well-rounded.
I always want that when he goes, hey, somebody yell, you know, yell out a song. I want to yell, you know, like somebody I played with, I'm like, Katie Lang. I want to hear that, you know? I want to hear that.
Deep.
Yeah, go deep.
Yeah, Katie Lang. He probably still knows all those licks.
I'm sure he does.
I wouldn't doubt for a minute.
I'm sure he does.
For a minute.
There's always like that small group of people at the top of the mountain who have an absolute love/affinity for the actual instrument. I won't say there's a lot of them, but there are some, and John is definitely in that group of people.
Right?
It's like the guitar is an extension of his body.
Totally. It never leaves his side.
Yeah, and that's what I always liked about, you know, we've talked about Zach, and that was the same thing. Yep. He probably took a shower with a guitar if he could, you know. For Zach, take a shower. That's the wrong thing to use back in the day for him. But yeah, he was always with the guitar, and that's what John.
Till Detroit.
And that's what John's like, man. He's always noodling, always playing, sitting on a couch, sitting on a chair. He's always got it, you know. And that's what Zach was, you know. Zach had them all. There were so many on the bus. You had to move guitars to sit down,
to lay down.
Yeah. And then you had to hold the guitar if you're, you know, dude, fucking play that thing, you know. But John's always got one in his hand, and he's always creating.
So this is a comment coming from a fan. Okay, so I'm not coming from anyone in the know. As a fan, Motley Crue could not have made a better decision if they were going to make a band change. If the necessity for that to happen, if that was going to happen. They got the absolute fucking right guy.
I so feel the same way.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they couldn't have done it. Couldn't have planned. The planets could not have lined up any better.
Nope. And I agree, and I completely agree. And it's not because I'm I'm part of it, but because I can't think of anyone else that could have, like, with the vibe. Mm-hmm. With the knowledge and the expertise, I mean, and just the knowledge of music, because when he first got the gig and he was kind of playing the music at rehearsal and stuff and like geeking out on it, we would geek out together because him and I are the same age.
Sure.
And we grew up on Motley Crue. That's part of what I learned, how I learned how to play guitar. And he's he's a fan of Mick Mars.
Absolutely.
I mean, because Mick Mars 100%. Wrote some of the greatest riffs.
Yep.
In
no doubt.
Rock history.
He had to turn me on to them. Remember?
Yeah.
I was the same way. I mean, that's there was Motley Crue, then there was the surf music. But, you know, but that's exactly it. You know, and John and I have actually talked about that too. You know, that, you know, he was a Crue fan. He knows all those songs. Yeah, and it's great because he plays it note for note, and
he does,
and he's got stuff in there that it's just like it's awesome. And Mick was awesome. Mick's, but John does justice to everything that what I mean.
Without question.
Exactly.
He did not change anything to cater to John. He's like, this is Motley Crue music, and he did it. And as a fan, watching rehearsal, watching the shows, I'm super happy. I'm like, man,
that's authentic.
Sounds like the fucking record, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
We always laugh because he doesn't like the band, but I adore Rush, and I used to love when they would.
I like Rush.
When I go see them live, I was so impressed. Not so much of Peart in terms of because Neil expanded, I think, a bit live, but I think Alex was very much true to the actual vinyl. And when they asked him about that, it was like, I remember being a kid and going to see some stuff in the late 60s, early 70s, and I didn't know what the fuck I was listening to because it didn't sound anything like what I had purchased.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that could be frustrating for some people. Like musicians, when they hear da 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 da, the scale da 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 da. If you don't get that last note in there, they're waiting for it, or if you don't land on that one, you're waiting for that note, and you're like, it's frustrating. So if you don't hear what you used to hear on the record, and even if you heard it on the way to the venue, you're like, why?
It kind of doesn't resolve sometimes.
Yeah, that's the key.
The phrase doesn't resolve,
and
right?
You're like, why didn't they play it like the record?
Yeah,
that used to frustrate me too.
As a young kid too, I didn't play back there. I was just a huge fan. When a band would disappoint was usually when it was either you could tell you didn't know what sloppy guitar playing actually was, but when you heard it, you're like, "Oh, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound anything like the record."
Doesn't sound right.
Jimmy Page,
right?
A fan,
live.
That's the thing. The fans, you could be the musically dumb, just like no musical ability or theory knowledge at all. But if you're a fan of any song, you'll know. Because you've heard it a million times, right? In your car, headphones, whatever, sleeping. If they play the solo wrong or they get a wrong note in, as a fan, you're going to go, I don't know what it was, but it didn't sound like the record at this part. Or they changed it here or whatever.
Question on that exact topic. Yeah. Because I have a little debate with a very good friend of mine on this. I'm of the belief that most rock bands can get away as they age tuning down a half step. That most non-musician fans may detect something a little different, but may not at a half step.
Yeah.
But when you take it the full step, or heaven forbid you go 4.5, which I've seen out there.
Seen that too.
Eric.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Not a full one. I don't think I'll 1.5 steps, maybe one whole step. But I think when you go from a half step to one whole step down, I think the fan starts to perceive, although they can't they couldn't articulate to you what it is.
They know it's
different. They start to articulate a difference, and the music naturally gets a little darker and does not have the same exuberance for a lot of acts like the records do. Just an interpretation.
Totally agree. And you're right. You're right about that. You're right. You're completely right about that.
One of the things that drove me nuts about, and I'll say it, Megadeth, is they went down a whole step. It doesn't sound right to me. It just
because it is different. It's literally in a different key.
It does not sound right at all. But Motley's always been a whole step down.
Whole step.
From the beginning,
from the start.
Everything sounds
the same.
normal. It is
the same.
How it
that's
should
right.
sound.
That's right.
They started like that. That's how they started.
Yeah.
And Kiss was usually a half step down on the early records too.
Yeah, they're
until the 80s, I guess. But yeah, I just think that there's something that the fan the appreciator of music recognizes that is different. They don't have to be musicians, but they know.
You'll know.
But it's really debatable at a half step. Will they actually know? And my answer is they probably won't know at a half, but a whole.
It's too noticeable.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have a rather upbeat song, you can turn it into sludge really bad by going that whole half step
You're
down.
right.
And some of the Kiss stuff, I used to say, just is not. You can't play "Lick It Up," a whole step down. It just doesn't. You know, as a fan, that does not sound right.
Lick it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand why it's done. We all get it, but yeah, I think you damage the live experience for the fan if it's not in the correct tuning, or if you go beyond a half.
Yeah.
You think it's really prevalent now? I mean, not just with the aging acts. Do you see Do you see even younger bands struggling to duplicate what they put on vinyl live, and that the obligatory half step down is kind of common? Do you find that?
I don't know. I don't know about with the younger bands. I can't really speak on that.
Me neither.
I couldn't tell you. But eventually, I would think that some of these younger bands are going to go that extra step or half step down.
You know, I mean, I think it's a natural progression as people get older. You know, got to their voices are starting to go. If you don't have a singer that can do it, you know, you look at again Zeppelin. You know, they have to I can't even think of the word I'm trying to say. They're playing in a different key, man. They're rearranging the music to fit what Robert could sing, or along those lines. At that last time that they played, so you're hearing things in a different key.
Back in 2009.
Yeah, you hear something. You hear something. That was a great show.
Half step then, there, right? There wasn't a full step.
I'm thinking it was probably lower, and because they're already a half step down. But you know, when you listen to it, it's just like, I can hear it's kind of different. But then you know they do the different arrangements to cover it up, you know, and all of this, you know. But along those lines, that's what bands are doing now, is you know, just rearranging the music to get everybody to play their best, you know,
to fit the ability.
Yeah,
you both big fan of Page?
I am. Yeah, I am.
And I get dirty looks when I say this. I especially when I was in music school, I said this in a group of musicians who were big Zeppelin fans, and I said, I love Jimmy Page. But honestly, he as a producer, he dwarfed what he was as a guitar player. Now he's a god. He's a guitar player. I agree, but if you look at his vision. And as a music producer and just his vision, oh my God, he was a Jedi.
There are guitar tones, and this is probably a very ridiculous thing to say in the year 2024 with all this digital stuff and every imaginable tone conceivable, and for the last 20 years it has been. But I still believe there are certain rhythm guitar tones that he put on his first couple Zeppelin albums that still have never been duplicated. That you've never heard them. It. Like I think about in '79 or '78 when Into the Outdoor came out, and I heard In the Evening, and I heard that crazy middle of that solo where it sounds like there's like the guitar goes underwater for a second as a percussive thing. I've had people tell me that they still cannot duplicate that. They don't know what he did to create those unique tones, which is crazy.
He was amazing, man. As a producer, I mean, just amazing. Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I did not get to see them live. I'm dating myself. I did not get to see them live in Cleveland because Bonham had passed and then the show was canceled. But my family had. I have uncles and so forth that have seen them. And the themes tends to be what I read a lot is that live it was lacking because it was only a one guitar attack, but also Jimmy was, you know, invariably behind the beat a lot, which can work for you. It works for Keith Richards, right?
Can work.
I'm not sure it works all the time if you listen to the early Zeppelin live stuff. There was just something missing. Now, they made up with volume, I guess, but there seemed to be on the guitar front something missing live with Zeppelin.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, here's what he did. He created great albums, great albums. But I think he painted himself into a corner as a performer because he's like, holy crap, it's just me, and I got to pull off all this.
How do I duplicate it?
Yeah.
You got John Paul Jones with the organ and you know, stuff like that.
Filled it up a little bit.
And playing the bass pedals, but man, there was just so much going on
with the guitar. Yeah. Like, and I can name so many songs. And I remember what was it? Song Remains the Same, or the live one. Couple of live clips where he is rearranging the guitar parts / leads / solos back to like rhythms to accommodate the orchestration that was in the song originally.
Yeah.
And man, he created uphill battles for himself because as a guitar player, and I'm trying to figure out the song, so I watch him live and I'm like, man, he's still doing it, but I could tell he had to. That brain was working.
Well, and to be honest, let's be honest, from the mid '70s through like the middle of the '80s, he was not doing it sober, and you know, so on top of all that complexity, he had his other issues going on. It was almost like wow, like you know. Did you happen to see the Crows and Page back like in 99, 2000?
I didn't go.
No.
So I had a unique treat here in Pittsburgh. I said front row, dead center. My buddy and I got charity tickets and we went, and we walked out of there just totally blown away, because that was the best Zeppelin show I could have imagined, because you had that extra guitars in there. It was so full. And it was great to see Page being able to just be Jimmy and play Jimmy's parts from the records. You know, and he was getting his due. But man, from a sound standpoint, that was just so freaking amazing. That's the Jimmy Page I want to remember that night.
And he probably felt the same way, like, man, this is the way I meant for it to come out.
This is what it's supposed to sound like. Well, that's what's fun about, you know, when I went out with Jason Bonham last year, watching Mr. Jimmy play. I mean, because that
guy is something.
Oh
man.
my God,
that guy is something.
He plays the Page stuff, you know, and other things, and they've got a keyboard, and they've got a second guitar player, you know. And
Mr. Jimmy from the Kimmel Show, or
no. He
Sakara last name?
Yeah, Akira Sakara.
Yeah.
Is that him? He looks just like him. He's this guy is like a splitting image of Jimmy Page. He's Asian, but he got very
I know who you're talking about.
He is something, man. Amazing. And getting a tech for him and pick his brain. He's got the same, you know, the same model instrument. Yeah, everything's the same as Page has. And just to watch this guy go out there, and he is Jimmy Page.
Yeah, well, I think Jimmy thinks he's Jimmy Page. You know what I mean? I think Page has fully endorsed the.
He has. Yeah,
very flattering.
But the guy, I mean, but to actually see, you get like, I actually said, man, it was like being transported back to 1975.
Yeah,
and the song remains the same, because he's, you know, he does it. Yeah, he does it all, and it's amazing that, you know, to be able to see that, and like I said, sonically, that's the closest you're going to get, you know. And that's not, you know, you talk about, you know, is it, you know, do you get upset or whatever if, you know, if it's not the same. That guy makes it, that's his mission, to make it sound exact.
Perfect, yeah.
You know, and it just to watch people with that kind of talent. Yeah.
It's amazing to me, though, if you go back and listen to recordings in the 70s, like, you know, every band had to have an obligatory live album. If they got some success, they had to have that live album. It was a thing back in the 70s, early 80s, right? But from band to band, from producer to producer, the quality really varies.
Very
when
much.
When I listen to the non live album, which is to me if you look at the 70s as a whole, to me the best sounding album I was ever exposed to happened to be in 73 with Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. When I listened to the recording of that record, I think it was Alan Parsons was part of
he was part of that production crew. Yep.
My point is, in 73 they were able to produce that. And then you go fast forward to the end of the decade, and you hear all these studio and some of these live records that just sound like they're underwater. There's such a
very flat.
Like what band was it? Foreigner. Very disappointing. If you listen to the Foreigner catalog, the studio records are just absolutely horrid. And some of the Zeppelin stuff, you know, there was intricate and all that, but they weren't recorded very loud, and there was a lot of tape hiss in Jimmy's stuff. Like, if you really, I mean, it varied from, you know, from artist to artist. If you really love and immerse yourself in the music of that era, definitely a big production difference from band to band.
Well, to not make anyone else feel bad, I'm probably gonna be wrong, but Dark Side of Moon wasn't that like a major project? Like, didn't they spend like way more time on it than like the typical album is to make?
Yeah.
So I feel like that could.
Thing.
Yeah, I know.
Forget the music for like whether you like it or not. Listen to the production.
I know.
Of that. I know. Headphones. It's like this is like recorded in the 90s.
But see, that's who they recorded it for. Because remember, you put the vinyl on, and then you would put the headphones on, and you would lose yourself in the music. And that was what they were going for. I think they were really going for that, like, you know, where you'd get the certain sound here and the panning.
Yeah.
And
it was quiet, though. Like the Dolby, I don't know if it was like the first Dolby recording ever, but it was just something about that record was so light years ahead production-wise from everything else.
They really got into it, man.
Yeah.
I can't remember and I could be wrong on this, but I think that they have a quad version out instead of stereo.
Quadraphonic?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're correct.
Yeah, you could just, and their concerts are like that too. It's in quad, and because I've worked for them a few times. It was back in the day, and it was amazing that it's coming from all around you.
Right, which is cool. On that note, I did see when I was living in Denver, I did see the Australian Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah.
Do you like it?
I really did like it, and they were able to. And apparently, they used a lot of the same stage props and lights and effects that.
Are they Brit Floyd?
Australian.
There's Australian and there's Brit
That's
Floyd.
cool as shit. Okay, I know of Brit Floyd.
Yeah, I saw this one.
I've seen them. I've done them both. Yeah,
it's a really good experience. Really, I enjoyed it. I would see it again too. I mean, it's like, the same songs. You're going to see the same. I don't care. It's an experience for sure.
To watch somebody play that and exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just always find it fascinating when you go back and listen to stuff from the 70s particularly.
Yeah.
Because it was all analog, right? It was the AAA, analog. Because digital didn't really start till like the early 80s, I think.
Something like that.
And the varying degrees of quality in production. It doesn't discriminate between super popular acts or non-super popular acts. It just seemed like almost a crapshoot. Like I wonder, like how was that acceptable back then? You know what I mean?
People put out albums. I don't know. Yeah, they couldn't afford these big guys. The big producers.
One of the fun things is if you listen to bands from back in the day when they first start out, it's a whole different sound than because they were cheap. They had to be made fast, and they had all the grit and the angst and the anger and
4 and 8 track stuff, right?
Yeah. And nowadays you have these guys. They take years to make an album that
take 20 weeks just to put one vocal line out there.
And they polish it to it's like it's not even. It
doesn't have that live feel.
I'd rather have a Too Fast for Love with all that anger than something that's modern day produced by a band that a pop band or whatever that it's perfect.
Was there ever a record that came out that you both heard and you're like, this is a new level of production, whether it was good or bad? You're like a rock record, like, this is like. So this is where technology is taking us. Was there a moment that you had where you like heard something like this is like way beyond production wise of what I've heard before? Because I definitely had one.
I'm gonna go with the Black Album.
That's it.
Metallica.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bob Rock, right?
It changed everything. Because he ran out of my riffs, that's why.
Okay, Mustaine.
But it was so many levels of that. It was songwriting, it was song form, structure, length, as well as the production where you're like, nothing else matters. You're like, whoa, this dude is singing some vocal lines. The guitars sound...
sang.
The guitars, like just the way they layered the guitars, you were like, oh my
Another level,
God.
different level.
Yeah.
And I went back and intentionally, never forget that, I got that CD and I listened to it a couple times, and then I went back and I intentionally listened to Injustice for All in its entirety about 2 years prior.
Yep.
The production value was just, it was unbelievably different.
Yep.
Like almost like, I won't say a different band, but in a way, it was kind of like a different band almost.
Like a different band.
Well, it was a different band.
Yeah, the bass player, right?
Well, no, same bass player.
Same bass player. You could hear him on this one.
That's true. You could hear.
They weren't underwater.
You could feel the bass, man, on a lot of the tracks.
But when did Jason join them?
87,
86
no,
or 7?
he was on the Puppets tour, because that's when
he joined, but his first record
was Garage Days.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The unproduced.
Right on.
Which sounds raw and
it sounds very punk and very raw. But yeah, I'm a big that's the thing. I'm a Metallica fan, and I say that, and people like, oh my God. And even when I was in music school, and one of my instructors was like, because Kirk Hammett and his sound is so terrible, and his tone and the wah and this and that.
Isn't that all subjective, though?
Yeah, but man, I got off on that stuff, man. Like, one of my favorites is Master of Puppets, man. That whole, speaking of records, that whole fucking record, man. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. From track to track.
I went through a few of those tapes, broke them, and I've been through a couple of CD burns on a couple of CDs because I played that thing so much.
Exactly, man. Yeah, that was and it was something different. It was something new. I mean, you didn't have that. That was.
You went against the grain of everything that was popular.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It wasn't hair metal.
No, that's exactly. It wasn't hair metal.
In an era of hair metal.
And they had zero radio play.
Yep.
Zero.
Correct.
And zero videos.
And that's how they got.
Correct.
That was, you asked about, music and obtaining it. That was all tape trade back then. Yeah. Remember
people would say, I'm going to make you a tape.
Yeah, I'll make you a tape.
I'm going to dub you. I just got the blah album. I'm going to I remember I got Appetite for Destruction on a dub tape that someone said, dude, you got to listen to this, man.
And artists loved that back then because that kind of quote unquote sharing helped them sell records because every tape made the quality is a little off of the actual production, whereas digital was one copy, and that's what took the industry down, right? Yeah. But every time you made a tape, you knew that you couldn't take that tape and make a copy, and then that tape because eventually
it was just
right.
But you know what? It made me. You'd listen to it again the way you'd listen to the whole album, and you go buy the record.
Fucking right, man.
Exactly.
Fucking right.
That's exactly.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And you wouldn't buy the single. You'd buy the
and because you wanted
record.
the album sleeve. I was born a poor black child.
You know what? I was going to do that earlier. That's what always pops in my head.
That's a Steve Martin.
My story?
I got it.
Yeah. No, I know you guys got it, but I'm just making sure that the rest of I don't get canceled tomorrow.
The blues makes me so depressed. Listening to the blues always makes me feel so depressed.
How the hell did you get in this crazy business?
That's an interesting story.
Right on.
So
that's why I asked.
So
I do some things. Right?
I'm nobody. I was nobody. I'm nobody.
You stole that from him.
That's what I say all the time.
Really?
I say it all the time.
Yeah. It's even sometimes I think, how did I get here? And that's a great question. But I was literally a nobody. Came out to California to do the whole rock and roll thing.
What year, approximately?
You're gonna laugh.
I won't.
2014.
Oh, right on.
So had a whole
10 years ago.
A little bit of a late bloomer.
Yeah, I had a whole other life before this. Completely different life. Anyway, go out to California, go to music school, do the music thing. I was pretty realistic because of my age. I was older. I was literally the oldest person in class every day.
Oh, right on.
But I owned it, so I did my thing, and I knew I wasn't going to walk out of this school and record contracts were going to be piling up. I was hip to the reality of the fact that
age will do that to you, right?
Yeah, and I need to work, I need to pay bills, I need to live. So it's like, well, I kind of accepted the fact that I was going to be a working musician to the truest point where I'd be working. And almost starving. So I was very fortunate in that after graduation, back up before graduation, I realized I needed a trade. Playing guitar, even though it is a trade,
it's definitely a trade. It's a craft.
It's not considered a money-making thing.
You don't say.
So I knew I'm going to have to work, and I don't want to work at Starbucks or at the mall or sell shoes or whatever, Al Bundy style. So I knew I had to have something that I could make money at, and so it was a complete afterthought. So I went to Musicians Institute. I ended up doing their luthier program. And I was already making money as I was there because, I'd met instructors and, hey, you want to work on this pickup? You want to work on this output jack? Or can you set up this? And, and I'd get thrown money. And then I started working at the school, guitar tech at the library. And then I started working at, just gig after gig. I started working at the Whiskey, guitar teching there. But in the meantime, I'm also teaching private lessons. I'm teaching at the college. I'm doing a lot of under the table work. Hey, you want to tech for me this weekend? You want to sit in? You want to tech? You want to anything I could get. And then apparently my name got turned into a couple of people that I work with at the school. John 5 loses a guitar tech.
Okay.
Coming out of Mexico, and the year right now we're just coming out of the pandemic. The year is 2022-ish. And I'm thinking, I've subjected myself to, I'm just going to work. I'm going to be a hardworking, just grinding kind of guy.
Okay.
I had zero to little sleep at the time, and then I get a call from one of the guys in the office. Says, "Hey, John 5 just lost a guitar tech. I'm friends with his tour manager. He just told me this. Your name is on the top of the list. If you don't give me your resume by tomorrow, it's going to get opened up to the rest of the industry." And I mean, he wasn't even done. I said, "Yeah, hell yes." I was nervous. It was out of nervous energy and just like, let's see how far I can go with this. I said yes, and then literally a day later, I get a call from the tour manager, Mike Spears, and he says, "John wants to meet you, and you're going to be getting a call from John, and you're probably going to audition, and And so I'm sitting in a private lesson. I get a call, and it's John's number because he had already given me his number. His tour manager did, and I answer, and it's almost the same thing every time I talk to him. Even now, it's, "Hey buddy, how you doing?" Or it's usually something, iteration of that, or "Hey dude." And I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "It's John 5. He's like, "I want to check you out. Come on by. We're gonna do some jamming, and we'll see what happens." I was nervous as hell. Did it. Set up his guitars. Got him going. Got him playing. Switched out. He does a lot of switching guitars during the show.
Certainly.
He gave me the rundown.
How many guitars is he averaging on a show, roughly? How many changes?
It changes. Oh, a lot. Sorry, I'm tapping my foot, huh?
Yeah,
I'm being a musician.
That's all right.
I'm being a nervous musician.
That's all right.
In per show, man, average it's 5 to 10 times.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're always changing.
Damn.
Yeah, I
Plus
haven't
you got
even
the
counted.
mandolins and the
Yeah, I
banjos.
haven't counted. And then,
Right on.
So there's a lot of stuff going on.
Okay.
But the cool thing is, since 2022, when I got hired, that it's a crazy story, because I went from John playing clubs
Wow.
to in the middle of that tour, he said, "Hey, I called the TM tour manager for Rob Zombie. You got the gig." And then it was like, the attitude was like, don't fuck it up, And then it was the Zombie, the last tour with John and Rob, Freaks on Parade, Sheds. So I went from clubs to Sheds in less than a year, and everybody was like, "Dude, this happens to nobody." You realize that guys grind it out for 20 years before they're in a band of a Rob Zombie headlining size.
Right on.
And then into that tour, following September, October, John gets the call. He tells me, "Hey, dude, I'm going to be in Motley Crue." He was like, his exact words are, "Hey, my friend Nikki, he wants me to be in his band." And I'm thinking, "Nikki?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm going to be in Motley Crue." And I think I hugged him. I was like, "John, congratulations, man. That's so awesome." And I'm like, he goes, "Dude, you're coming with." And I was like, So it was pretty epic.
I bet.
And then I went on a world tour with Motley Crue.
In stadiums.
In stadiums.
And you met Frank Kowalo.
clubs, Sheds,
stadiums. Yeah.
And it's
And
only,
you meet Frank Kowalo.
and it's
That's the highlight there.
dude.
Fuck the clubs,
Dude,
Fred stadiums. It's me.
Fred and Steve were great. They and I was just actually talking to John about this recently. Like they because he's been to so many shows already. This tour with John. Fred's such a good guy, and I'm like, yeah. I said, Fred's great, and and he goes, yeah. He goes, we were talking about Motley Crue, and he goes, are those guys like how who's your favorite? I said, I can't pick. I said, because from day one, I basically submitted to both of them. Like,
Right on.
look, this is new.
Absolutely.
And they knew I was new, and they knew my experience, because I was like, just, dude.
Yeah.
And so it, again, clubs to stadium to Sheds to stadiums, each level, it's a completely different
Certainly.
process, and what you do and what you don't do and what you have to do, and then the pressure. And him and Steve-O like really took me under their wing, because I was like, look, I don't know anything. I'm willing to learn. What do I got to do? I know I'm F&G on this tour. I'm the fucking new guy, and I'm gonna get it from all directions, because I've been the new guy this whole time, and so I was like already in new guy mode. So I was just like,
I get it.
Take me,
I
mold
get
me,
it.
and
I
they
get
did.
it.
And at one point, like the culmination is where we're in Mexico, South America somewhere, and they threw me in a hotel room, and they're like, "You're the fucking guitar tech for Motley Crue."
Yeah, that's true.
Don't you ever forget that. You know what? You're badass, dude. And like they're pumping me up because like I was, you know, I was humble. I tried to be humble.
Sure.
And the whole experience has been humbling. Like you walk into a rehearsal room day one, and not only is it John 5, it's Nikki 6, it's Tommy Lee, and it's Vince Neil, and it's all these veterans from Motley Crue, and I'm like, how did I get in this room?
It's a beautiful thing.
How did I get in this room? So they're sitting there in the hotel room saying, "You're the fucking guitar tech for Motley Crue." No, it's not just John 5. It's John 5 and Motley Crue. It's Motley Crue. And they were like, "You own it, and you better, you know, you need to stomp around on stage sometimes, and you are the headliner, and don't let anybody tell you any different. I seen you with John, and we love the way you treat John, and you're his guy, he's your guy, and you guys are like, you know, you're joined, and you guys got good timing, and you guys got good chemistry, and you guys got good attitude." And he's like, you know, and it's true, and it was true, because again, me and John got into Motley Crue, and we were the kids, and we were just happy to be there. And that was the attitude, and these guys treated me so great. Like everybody, honestly, everybody on Motley, on the crew, and from management all the way down to the guys in the band, just great. Have treated me like they want to be with me. Like it's cool. It's way cool.
Not only does he get to go from clubs to sheds to stadiums with Motley Crue, he opened up from Motley Crue.
That's right.
And the first song he plays as an opening band, he breaks a string
on John's guitar.
On the first song.
The first song.
So you were the guitarist in that band I saw.
He's opening up for Motley Crue, and he breaks a string on the first note of the first song. And he plays the set on he plays 3 songs on 5 strings.
Of course.
Yeah, because he's
a guitar tech can do that.
And he did it.
Yeah, I was scared. And
I would have changed it while I played. I would have been like, we're sitting there.
I had to rethink how to play the rest of those 3 songs because I switch out on the last 2. But I remember I panicked for a moment, but adrenaline had already taken over because it was halfway through that opening song. It was like after the solo or something. I couldn't remember. And I broke a really freaky odd string, and I had to rethink the rest of the 2 songs. And I remember after the first song, everybody was looking at me because you could see the string just flopping there on the.
You could see me laughing in the video, going, "Oh man!"
And I was like, "No," and I knew what was in the arsenal, and that was the only guitar with that tuning.
Yeah,
and I look over Robert Long, our production manager,
famous tech back in the day. John's tech
was
back
John's
in the day.
tech in with Manson.
Yeah,
was there as my tech. That almost brought tears to my eyes.
He ran right across.
He was like Johnny on the spot. He was showing me how to tech. He was on it.
Right.
And he's like, "What do you need?" And I said, "This is the only guitar I can play this on." And I looked at everyone else and I said, "We're going to keep going." And like, biggest compliment I've ever got was like we got off stage and Nikki and John and all the guys were there because they saw the show.
I know they did.
They were like, "Bro," and Nikki, biggest compliment ever from it was awesome. He says, "That was so fucking rock and roll, man. You broke a string and you said, fuck this, we're gonna keep playing." And out, man, my heart I was just like, this is one of the greatest nights of my life.
Right?
And it's a testament to his musicianship. He played great. He figured it out on 5 strings.
What's even more amazing to me is I know the venue you played at, and it's amazing you both came home with no staph infection.
Oh my god! the shit dripping from the ceiling.
It was raining. We made it rain.
There was like black.
Like I said, I'm glad you both came home with no staph infection.
It was an old punk bar.
It was epic, bro.
It was.
Oh my god!
But man, I should have got tested after that from that shit ball. I think something fell in my mouth, man. I looked up and it's just like, oh,
you're inhaling it. It was so thick.
It was so
thick. So was it on the same realm as CBGBs or was it worse? You've been to both of them, right?
I'm thinking it was probably older.
It would have had to have been older. It has to be.
It was to play a punk bar in London.
Badass, man.
And open up for Motley Crue.
So badass.
And then the next night, Wembley. And we sound checked Ace of Spades, which was also the closer of the set. Ace of Spades at Wembley. And
how badass
and it was, and then one of the management came up to me after that. We were all hanging out at one of the bars at the hotels we were staying at, and in the UK, I can't remember. It was the Lytham show. It was that one. It was after the Lytham show, a couple of days later, and he was like giving me compliments and saying, "You guys are awesome." And at one point, he goes, "Do you realize you guys played Wembley before Motley Crue did?"
I never thought about that.
Ooh, that is true.
That's awesome. And we played the stadium, man, because they have a couple different Wembleys.
Yeah.
But you know what? That was always my bucket list, because I played O2, I played Milton Keynes, I played clubs there, shit like that. But man, I walked out there. I got a little tear in my eye,
of course,
walking out there, because that was what I wanted to do.
You told me that when we were living in.
And just going out there, and I had to go out, and I walked out on the thrust, and I had to feel what it felt like to have that PA just like kicking that bass in you,
bumping it.
Yeah, and I walked out there, and it was so awesome. But yeah, I played Wembley, and I didn't even think about it. I played for Motley Crue.
And then at the end of the video we shot, he says, "Played Wembley."
I played Wembley. That was my thing. And granted, you're a tech. You didn't play anything. No, it's it. You get that. You get those moments out there by yourself.
How could you not?
You do, because I was thinking of all the things that happened there. All the people who played on that same spot, and I thought,
oh my God, yes.
This is pretty freaking cool, man.
And they only played when it was probably like a 75,000, because they upgraded it. It's a 90,000 seat arena stadium now.
What's they do soccer in there, right?
Yeah.
It was massive. It was just football.
Football.
Proper
football.
football.
But I mean, so it's been awesome to to be able to tour with David and play with David. Who knows? Maybe we'll got a couple more shows.
More times ahead.
We got more shows in it.
I think we might have some more.
Hopefully
shows.
Yeah.
Well, think about this.
Just gotta learn some songs.
Think about this for a second.
I do.
Think about this for a second. I mean, you never, in this business, correct me if I'm wrong, but you never want to look too far in the future, right? Because everything's so unpredictable. However,
I want to retire.
I mean, if Motley Crue doesn't give us at least another 5 to 7, 10 years, I mean, I'll be disappointed, because
they got John now.
But I'm saying, I mean, one of the bands that was one of their influences, Kiss, went out at 51 years. So I mean, come on, Motley Crue.
Molly's a 40-something, 41.
Right. I mean, come on.
You gotta at least do 50, man.
Right, man. I mean,
60.
Could you actually imagine if you go back into your life? We're all roughly the same age. I'm probably a little older than both of you, but we're generally the same age. Go back to the 80s. As I always say, if someone would have sat me down at a local eatery here in '84 when I would have been 21 and said, I want to tell you something, kid, but you're not going to believe me, but I'm going to tell you that in the year 2024, Kiss would still be playing. That band that I was so insanely nutso over, right?
Yeah,
they're gonna still be around. And I would have said to yourself, get the fuck out of here.
Or your younger self would have been like, awesome, bro.
I don't know if I would have believed it though. I mean, because rock and roll always somewhat had a shelf life. I remember in 96 when the reunion for Kiss was. I said I never thought they'd get this far. I thought by 96 they'd be done. Just. And then I had known then, fast forward 28 years, they would still be going.
They'd still be doing the farewell, never say die, farewell tour.
Those are those full circles, but those are also those moments in your life. You know what I mean? When you think about it, I remember what I was doing when they retired. Yeah. Just like when that first Kiss song you heard came out, or when you first saw Phantom of the theme park or something.
Phantom of the Park.
You remember those things. Those are milestones.
What was the first for both of you? What was the first experience to rock and roll? What was the first rock album that was intrinsically yours, that you had, that you went and purchased or you were given? What was the first rock album, hard rock album, I'm guessing 70s, that turned you on?
Oh, that's
the first one.
I think mine is Van Halen 1.
in 78.
But I didn't get it in 78.
Right.
I got it later. But man, Eddie.
The first track, the first guitar riff, broke the rules.
When I first heard that on vinyl, it was at a buddy's house, and it was fairly new, and Eruption, and I was like, how many guitar players do they have? And then he looks at me and he was like, and then he points to Eddie, and I was just like, on the album cover, yeah, on the album.
David doing a full back bend. I was remember getting that album cover from a buddy of mine, being handed that record, 78, and I was probably 12, and I'm like, but I had already discovered the genre by then. What was yours?
First album I had was Rebel Yell.
Billy Idol.
I got it for my 16th birthday.
82 or 83? 83.
I'm going to say 83, something like that.
Yeah.
But I liked punk, so I liked Billy Idol.
Yeah.
And then I discovered this band. Well, it had to be around that same 83.
Yeah, 83
was Motley Crue,
of course.
Yeah, but the thing was I didn't buy records. I didn't listen to music. I didn't do anything. I just, if I heard it on the radio, it was cool. If I would tape it off of my, off the radio with your cassette tapes off the boombox. Oh, it's coming on. You used to call at the radio station 100 times. Hey, play Rebel Yell. And then they'd finally play it. But you'd be sitting there starting every song, like trying with your cassette tape.
Yeah,
but
in your head, I was like, man, so I can buy a cassette tape that actually is connected with wires to the actual radio, and it would sound so good. But I had this tape player, so my mother was very hip. I grew up on the Stones and Elton John, Pink Floyd and all that, but that was always her music. And then a buddy of mine, when I was 10, brought over the same day his older brother's records. And there was 2 records. There was Rush 2112 and Kiss Destroyer. I got exposed to both of them in the same day. Completely different shit.
Yeah.
Mine.
Yeah.
Everything was my entire life at 10 years old was different
Changed.
the next fucking day. Like,
Changed.
it was haunting and weird and cool and a little bit seedy in a way I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And it was just futuristic, and it was just like everything was just vibing and hit me like a sledgehammer on that day. I think it was the fall of '76 is when he came over, and I'll never forget that day. I had a little Emerson record player, and I took my Osmonds record. I took my Osmonds record off, and I put on Rush 2112, and everything fucking changed.
My mind expanded. Yeah, it's true though. But I was lucky like that too. I didn't actively listen to like, ooh, I'm going to listen to this for new music or whatever. Especially at a young age, I was always fortunate enough. I had a friend, an uncle, a neighbor, another lover of music, a person I read comic books with that would be like, check this out, man, Hendrix, or Zeppelin. But then again, I grew up around a lot of music. So growing up, I heard a lot of I had already heard a lot of Zeppelin,
right? Exactly,
and Beatles,
exactly.
And Elvis,
and the Stones.
A lot of times I didn't know who they were,
right,
or even what they looked like, but I'd hear it and I'd be like, okay, that's cool, that's different. Queen, I had a relative, an aunt and uncle that loved Queen and would play just over and over, and so that's Queen, I get it.
But what did you feel like you listened to something that all of a sudden became intrinsically yours? Because that little story I told you, those 2 bands became intrinsically mine, especially when I saw the grimace of both of my parents' face at that time, when they heard both of it, and it was like, the fact that they instantly did not dig it was all more validation. As a 10-year-old, I was like, oh, okay, it's on.
Yeah, it was Van Halen, and I'd say it was AC/DC, that Highway to Hell. Highway to Hell, that album.
Yeah, that was a game changer in '81. I was well into the genre. I had 5 years under my belt then, but when that came out, I had ignored AC/DC outside of WDVE, our local station was playing, like, the prior with Bon Scott. But when they'd have a hit, it'd be on.
Well, no, that one was the last one with Bon Scott.
Which one did you?
Highway to Hell.
Oh, that's right.
That was the last album.
I keep confusing with Black and Black, right? But
Yeah.
But in '80, when Black and Black came out,
that was
like a sledgehammer to my forehead. Like,
that was
you didn't pay
huge.
attention to these guys.
That was like like everybody sit up and listen.
What were the odds of that, right? That band in particular. I mean, to find a replacement for him like that.
But if you look at their arc even before Highway to Hell was almost like their.
Oh yeah.
That was like you could tell they were breaking
almost
big.
cresting, yeah.
And Back in Black, had Bon Scott still been there, I think he would have crushed it as well. But Brian Johnson came in,
Didn't skip a beat.
ooh, yeah, he lit that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
That was powerful because again I was really digging AC/DC, and that threw me for a loop because I didn't know anything about. I was too young. I didn't know anything about the gossip or who was in, who was out, who died.
Well, we didn't get instant news. We had to read magazines
right.
and read album covers. And,
But man, Back in Black, I was like, what
the fuck is this? Dio fan? Ryan James Dio fan?
Oh yeah, hell yes. We were just talking about this recently on the bus.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know he's a Dio fan.
Hell yes.
Yeah, game changer for sure.
Hell yes.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting, too, that there's just this kaleidoscope of music, the tapestry of hard rock music, and just where you fit in that puzzle, when it you became aware of it, and then your take on it is so different because where your starting point was.
Yep.
You know?
Why is Fred so quiet?
He's reminiscing. He's reminiscing.
I'm actually I'm enjoying taking it all in.
Oh,
It's like I always tell myself, had I became a Kiss fan, or maybe I had been exposed to Kiss in like '80 when there was a disco vibe or something starting there, it may have never resonated with me, and everything. My whole viewpoint of hard rock might be completely different.
Correct.
It's where your starting point
yeah,
is.
no, you're right. I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. But I don't know, somehow also, don't you feel like whether you had listened to this when it was out initially or 2 years later, that you feel like you still would have liked it? Like still, and it would have still played an important part in your growth? And
you would have caught up, is what you're trying to say?
said, oh man, I missed this. Because I've come across music that way where it's been out a couple of years, and then I first discovered it happens even now, and I'm like, oh, this is what people have been talking about. All right, I dig it. I didn't even realize I was hearing it,
I think you're right. I look at the band Aerosmith that way, where it didn't hit me in the forehead till like Toys in the Attic, but then all of a sudden, like there was this album Rocks, and there was something.
And then you go back and check,
which was the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
It was the beauty of it, just going back, and it was like it was a discovery to you.
It was. It's more of a discovery, yeah. Or like when you fall in love, with one later album, because that was when you discovered them, and then you find out, holy crap, they did this too?
Yeah.
That's epic.
And I think all of that tapestry of band evolution and changes and music style changes and all that stuff, who the producer was and where they recorded this one and what their influences were then, and in and out of the band and love struggles and this character does this and that, all of that is lost today.
Yeah.
With new artists for the most part, because we're getting, or not we, us, probably us three, but their fans are getting a day by day, hour by hour blow of everything these artists do. It's
true.
almost too much, man.
Yep.
Overload, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Did you ever look at a tour book when you were a kid? Like, I used to look at a Rush tour book, and they do an artsy thing. They would have this blank page and then like 3 small pictures on the page, the rest of it all blank. So they would actually fucking tease you. They wouldn't give you too much of the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, was that artsy and they weren't putting much thought in it, or was it that systematic, don't give it all, keep them coming back for more.
Keep them wanting.
I don't know, but it's like we kept yearning for information, album covers, album sleeves, rock.
You would read,
everything.
Yeah.
To you couldn't, and there was no way to get more information. Everything else just then became a guess.
It was.
Now you know what they had for lunch. Your favorite band
And
has
I'm not
for
sure
lunch.
we're better off for that.
No, we're not.
And then when vinyl went away and it was cassette, you would try to, and it would get even less because you're like, well, who produced this?
I got the magnifying glass out.
Who did the album art, man? That was pretty cool. Or that picture, that's cool. But like where, even on like a lot of the albums,
the gatefolds.
You're getting so much, but even still not getting a lot. But with the tape, I realized it came to the point where you're like, no, I got to read a magazine to find out who did this, who that actress on that cover was, who was crawling around on the drag wire, who was that?
Tony Katane.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You had to go and look it up or find out or be glued to whatever entertainment show that was on TV.
Yeah, it was like being a Kiss fan. I remember seeing Paul Stanley with Lisa Hartman like in '83 or something in People magazine. It's a little, not a big picture. It's like, oh my God, that was the most amazing thing to me. Look at this. There's Kiss outside of like a rock magazine. Look at that. But that little blip is so inconsequential.
Oh, yeah.
But back then it was like
big time.
The earth moved.
It was a headline.
Exactly.
And it was information.
It was information.
Oh, he was hanging out in Beverly Hills.
It was
with
information.
Who? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And now we're on overload.
Yeah, and it just was a topic of conversation with like-minded young folks who dug the same thing. You all were starving for the same information.
Well, did you hear? Oh yeah, I read that. My brother has that magazine too. Oh, did you see that picture? Yeah.
And then like some of the things that were just made up became like,
it became lore.
Lore, right?
Yeah.
There was something beautiful to that, man.
There was, because you never knew if it was true. Well, you really? Well, that's what so and so said.
Right.
And they live out in California. You know.
I heard from my cousin, the brother of a guy.
Yep.
Zeppelin was like that. There was a lot because Zeppelin was before. Like I always felt that, being born in the '70s. And coming a teenager in the late 70s, early 80s, that I just missed the heaviness of Zeppelin. It was like I was 5 years too late to really live it. I lived it, but not like lived it as a guy who was smoking dope and driving my car, listening to Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti. I wasn't there yet.
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
But so you always tipped your hat to him. I did. My friends, we would tip our hat to Zeppelin being the heavy. They're like, they're almost, you can't criticize Zeppelin, right? They're like the almighty Led Zeppelin.
The almighty.
But then as time goes on, it's like to see the tapestry of just, they quit, they stop, they're done. And not only are they done, but a whole new genre of music comes in the 80s, and all there's keyboards and synthesizers, and and one of my favorite bands, Rush, becomes a completely different band in the 80s. It's just everything just changes. Now that's a beautiful tapestry of music.
It is.
I'm not sure that I'm not sure that the Britney Spears' fans are going back to the beginning of her inception and looking at all the musical changes and how her styles changed. I don't know if that's happening. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. But I just don't know. Like, is someone going back and looking at the band Train, and is there like this long 25-year history of the band, which is a good band, but do they have the same weight in that specialness of how they evolved? Is that a thing?
I'm gonna say that people are doing it if they're complete true fans and really want to get to know the music and the musical styles and the progression. But people who don't want to make it, no, because you don't have to have musical talent. You just have to have a lot of likes. You have to be You have to be famous on YouTube and TikTok, because how many careers have started like that for the last 5-10 years?
Different paradigm.
It's a different thing. And even like, because remember, there's no more record companies, right? I mean, I guess, but no one's going to pay attention to you unless you've got monetization through YouTube or through some kind of social media, because you're not a money maker.
You have to do it on your own, quite frankly. You have
like Dave Matthews.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And
then they go to him, hey, we'll give you, and he's like, you don't have to give me nothing. I already did it on my own.
Mm-hmm. But that's so rare, and I think there's a lot of people that want to be famous through their self-promotion, but I'm not really sure that the pathway is there.
Nope.
In a broad way.
In a broad way, no. Because you could have a hot girlfriend that you put in all your videos, literally, and get all the likes and get monetization, because, in the next video, should she wear more or less? It's going to be an outside hot heat day in the sun shot, so you tell us what you want to see, viewers. Okay, click, 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 click. GoFundMe, click, 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 click,
The world is different. I mean, again, I'm not the old guy in the room saying it's worse. It's just different.
I'm the old guy in the room saying it's worse.
It's different. I don't know if it's worse. We just got to find the good.
I don't know if it's worse either, but it's just different. And I do feel sad in a way for generations that don't have the opportunity to enjoy music like our generation did, because of the organic nature of it, the tangible nature of it.
We talked. Yes,
and then the tapestry of learning about it. It was
that's a journey.
My albums were just as important to me in school as carrying my books around.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That weight of those albums and what they meant even in my own little social world there was a positioning there.
There was
I had
something in
because
there.
of that.
Yeah. Well, he's the one that has the 2112. If we're going to listen to it, we have to go to his house. My mom won't let me listen to it.
That's exactly it.
Because, remember that time my cousin freaked out,
They thought it was a pentagram on there, yeah. Exactly right.
Because so-and-so heard it backwards across the street. Kill yourself. How? It's an instrumental. Come on, Mom.
Oh, my God.
It's an instrumental.
So what's on tour what's on tap for you? Obviously, how much longer does this tour go on for John?
We're done beginning of March. I forgot what day it was. I think it's like the 2nd is our last date. We're back in San Diego. Is I think the last.
And that's where it ends?
That's where it ends.
Right
and then we sleep for like a week straight and recuperate. Although John will be still on.
Of course.
Just playing every day.
And then I'm guessing there's a Motley Crue reconvening thing on the schedule at some point.
On and off. They've announced a handful of dates.
This is kind of like an off year from a touring standpoint.
It's an off year.
An off year.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing stuff, but
here and there, hit and miss.
Yeah, it's going to be one-offs and
throwing darts at a map.
Yeah. So a few festivals, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what they've announced so far. So,
but who knows?
And some other secret stuff.
You guys got to do the Sphere. I'm not putting it on the spot.
Oh man,
that would be cool.
I would love the
cool.
Sphere.
Yeah,
that would be another like check mark. Like hello.
Well, we could have went and done some Sphere stuff, but somebody wanted to fool around at practice and then learn some songs.
What? Oh, you're talking to the tour.
Yeah.
You're talking about the tour.
When we at rehearsals, we could have went down to where they programmed the Sphere. And we ended up.
There was like a tour. There was like a tour going on. They were like, oh, Motley guys can go.
Yeah, and we stayed at rehearsals.
Yeah, we stayed to rehearse because
we played together. We had fun.
Well, because it would start off at rehearsal. Steve-O would do stumping, or he'd be playing some D.O. line or something, and then I'm like, ooh. So I'd play something, and it was back and forth. And then
we played.
And then one day at lunch, Steve goes, "Hey man, we should decide to play actual song. Like come on, man." Started playing stuff.
Yeah, and then we missed the tour. we didn't go see how they do it.
Program
that. Yeah. So,
but whatever.
Last question before we reconvene. First off. This was a blast. I would love to have you come back and do this. I don't know when the next time you're in Pittsburgh.
I would love it too.
The next time you're in Pittsburgh, whether we have to do it at night, if you're only in for a day, I'll just have him.
Couple hours.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would love to. This was you guys.
It's his first time on a podcast. I think he did a great job.
I don't even think that's possible.
I'm sitting here plotting on calling people, going, what'd they do with David? Because this was awesome.
What'd they do with David? Because he doesn't know me as shut up, new guy.
Yeah,
he knows me as like
shut up and get in the truck.
Yeah, nobody cares what you have to say, new guy.
Push that shit, new guy. He's like sitting there. They were so nice to me. Get my lunch, new guy.
No, it was great. But they put me in my place before I even had to be put in my place. So it was obvious. Like, I think after a while, they were like, we really can't tell him anything. He's willing to do everything and anything.
It's like Sean, my boots, new guy. He's like, okay. I'm like, fuck, damn it!
Don't be so agreeable.
Last question before you split. It's from left field. Do you find it a little strange that the most visual band in the world did not play the Sphere before they hung up their boots? Meaning Kiss did not play the Sphere.
Do I find it peculiar or weird?
Peculiar.
No. Because Kiss does what Kiss wants to do, and they probably just didn't want to do it. I don't know.
So you had this crazy venue that we've never seen anything like it in the history of mankind. I'm just setting it up.
I'm just setting it up.
I'm just saying, and it's perfectly made for the most visually bombastic band ever.
I know.
And yet they didn't.
Here's the thing. Maybe in the planning they said, already thinking, we're already on the way out. This is going to take X amount of extra work or man hours because of whatever technical things that go into it. Maybe it wasn't worth it. I don't know.
Or
Uh-oh. There's more. It's a conspiracy theory
just
time.
It would be unmasked. They would be like, well,
No.
You don't think in a year there could be a one-off gig there or something?
You know what?
The avatars will play it.
Anything's possible.
The avatars will come into play, and when they announce that's going to be. You know what? I don't even want to say this. I'll get in trouble for saying it. But that'll probably be the first show the avatars play, and it's just all on the outside of the thing. It's just it's like the fake kisses or the hologram kisses or Little Kiss. They'll have Little Kiss.
Oh my God, Little Kiss do it.
They'll have the little
There's like
kiss.
20 of those Little Kisses now.
There's a few of them, yeah.
I saw there's a black kiss.
I saw the black kiss.
Mini black kiss. There's like 4 little mini dudes that are all black.
But you wouldn't know because they have the makeup on.
You can tell. Yeah, but it's
Like the McDonald's Aussie, is that what it is? They have that?
what is that called?
Max Sabbath.
Max Sabbath. That is entertaining. Did you ever see the one where I guess Ozzy viewed them?
Yeah,
Jack took him and like they performed. That's cool.
That's
man.
awesome.
You can't make this shit up. All right, guys.
Thank
I'm glad
you,
you had a good
sir.
time. Thank you for doing this, buddy.
You guys were awesome.
Hey, look,
man.
the cameras are over there.
Oh, hey.
So we'll wave bye to them.
Oh, okay.
All right,
And you were
friends.
awesome, David. Wait,
Yeah, David was
I fucked
awesome.
up. I jumped it. I cut David off. So, but thank you, David. You were awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely got to do it again, pal.
I will
right.
anytime I can. Yes.
All right, friends. We are out.